The golden light of the setting sun bled across the jagged peaks of the Whisperwind Mountains, painting the entrance to Mila's cave in hues of apricot and ruby. A thick scent of pine and damp earth permeated the air, mingled with the faint, soothing perfume of the drying herbs that lined her walls. Mila, an herbalist shunned by the nearby village for her solitary ways and the wild magic they suspected in her blood, felt the familiar ache of loneliness settle in her chest. Dressed in a simple, faded brown gown that brushed the dirt of the cave floor, her long, flowing brown hair was braided loosely down her back. Though she had the natural grace of a wood nymph, her life was one of quiet isolation, tended only by the small patches of bright orange mountain flowers she cultivated outside her haven. She often watched the horizon, hoping for a sign, a purpose, or perhaps just a hand to hold. It was in this twilight hour, as she was grinding dried willow bark, that the peace shattered. A frantic, visceral scent arrived first, copper and grit, the unmistakable stench of fresh blood and desperate exertion. Moments later the sounds followed, the distant baying calls of hounds and the deeper, rough shouts of men, hunters. Mila's breath hitched. She knew the beasts the local hunters relentlessly pursued, the great wolves of the northern clans, creatures of high magic and royalty. She grasped the heavy wooden lever that secured her hidden entrance and peered out. Stumbling over the scatter of orange flowers, a massive form collapsed directly onto the warm, sun-drenched stone before her cave mouth. It was a wolf, but not merely a wolf. This was a creature of legend, colossal in size, its coat a majestic mix of thick gray and deep brown fur matted now with dark blood. He was the size of a small pony, wounded deeply across the flank, his breath ragged and shallow. Even in his distress, the sheer authority emanating from him, the compelling scent of raw, ancient alpha, made Mila's knees weak. She recognized the scent instantly, deep within the dormant omega part of her soul, recognizing power and lineage. This was no common beast. This was royalty, the Alpha King. His eyes, the color of molten gold, rolled toward her, desperate and knowing. The hunters were closer now, their shouts echoing off the steep cliffs. Mila did not hesitate. The memory of her own rejection, the coldness of the world, fueled an intense protective surge. This creature, majestic and wounded, needed sanctuary. "Come, Gran One," she whispered, her voice trembling but firm. She pulled hard on his thick mane, dragging him awkwardly into the deep recess of the cave, past her herb-drying rack, and into the cool, dark safety of her sleeping area. She yanked the thick lever down, sealing the entrance behind a slab of ancient, camouflage-covered stone, just as the first shouts crested the ridge. The heavy breathing of the great wolf filled the small cave, displacing the scent of chamomile and sage with the powerful, musky scent of wild alpha and iron-tinged blood. Mila worked quickly. She lit a small smokeless lamp and gathered her finest salves, comfrey for knitting flesh, willow bark for fever, and a poultice of goldenrod to draw out infection. The wolf, Derek, lay relatively still. His golden eyes never left her movements, watching her with an intelligence that far exceeded that of any animal. He was accepting her ministrations, recognizing the saving intention behind her hurried hands. Cleaning the wound was a grueling task, but Mila's deep-seated empathy banished any fear. She talked to him in a soft, melodic voice, narrating her actions as she cleaned the gore away. "Be still, my grand creature. You are safe now. They will not find you here." As she worked, she could feel the heat radiating off his massive body, the sheer power contained beneath the thick fur. Despite the pain evident in his tight jaw, he did not snap or snarl. When she needed him to shift slightly so she could wrap the bandage, he complied with a low, rumbling groan of effort. That night, Mila slept on a mat near the mouth of the cave, guarding the stone seal. the wolf rested across the room, his low, steady breaths a comforting, primal rhythm in the darkness. She felt an overwhelming sense of belonging she had never known, a deep peace rooted in the selfless act of protection. When Mila awoke, the morning sun was just beginning to cast soft golden streaks through the cracks in the stone seal. Derek was awake, watching her. He had cleaned his own muzzle, and the bandage on his flank remained untouched. She prepared a simple broth of wild mushrooms and roots for herself, offering him a bowl of fresh, clean spring water, which he drank deeply. The connection between them was deepening, moving past simple necessity and into the spiritual plane. Mila knew, without being told, that she was nursing the alpha king of the northern clans. The power of his scent, earthy, sharp, and intensely masculine, was slowly reawakening something dormant and profoundly female within her, a recognition that vibrated through her bones. Later that afternoon, after changing his dressings, Mila sat beside him. The deep, heavy muscle of his shoulder was warm beneath her hand. "Your wound is knitting well," she murmured, stroking the thick gray-brown fur, her fingers sinking into the plush undercoat. "You are the bravest creature I have ever known." Derek responded with a soft, breathy huff, tilting his colossal head toward her. He nudged her hand gently, urging her to continue the soft touch. Mila laughed, a light, genuine sound that felt alien and wonderful in the quiet cave. She had not laughed in years. His eyes, gentle and calm, held hers. The fear was entirely gone, replaced by a profound, trusting affection. She leaned forward and, as a friend might bid farewell to a loved one, she gently pressed her lips against the thick velvet fur of his dark snout. "Good boy," she whispered, her heart swelling with an emotion so fierce it felt like it might burst. The wolf's response was immediate and overwhelming. He didn't move away. Instead, he rested his heavy head on her lap. The action was intimate, an unspoken declaration of trust that vibrated through her. The scent of him intensified, a deep, alluring musk that spoke of dominance, leadership, and protection. It was the scent of a mate. They remained like that for hours, until the late afternoon gave way to the soft shadow of the mountains. Mila knew, with utter certainty, that a mate bond was forming, not through the typical aggressive rituals of the pack, but through shared silence and selfless care. She was the Omega, small and overlooked, yet she had been chosen by the highest alpha. The darkness of the second night was less frightening. They were two souls sharing a secret, a profound destiny sealed by blood and compassion. Mila could feel his gaze on her even through the dim lamplight. She knew they couldn't stay hidden forever. Derek's powerful presence was beginning to strain the walls of her sanctuary, not physically, but magically. She told him stories of her childhood, of the herbs, and of the sorrow of being shunned. She wept softly, and the great wolf reacted immediately, nudging her cheek with his warm, damp nose as if wiping away her tears. "Oh, my dear Alpha," she whispered, holding his warm snout between her hands. "You are healing me as well, just by being here." She slept with his paw curled close to her side, feeling the steady beat of his heart. It was the most secure she had ever felt. Mila woke on the third morning to a profound change in the atmosphere. The heavy, earthy alpha scent had sharpened, gaining a potent edge of restlessness and power. Derek was pacing the small space, his limp barely noticeable now. The energy radiating from him was palpable, a restless anticipation. The wound was completely sealed, a faint scar the only evidence of the near-fatal injury. The healing magic in the herbs, coupled with his own powerful alpha metabolism, had worked a miracle. He was whole again. Mila prepared a poultice, but he swiped his head away when she offered it. He didn't require her care anymore. He required something else entirely. His golden eyes were no longer calm. They were heated, focused solely on her. The air was thick, charged with unspoken need. The mate bond, now fully established, was singing between them, culminating in a sudden, urgent onset of her own heat, a profound, aching readiness she had never experienced. He paused, standing directly over her, his shadow engulfing her. He dipped his head deeply and pressed his muzzle into the juncture of her neck and shoulder, inhaling sharply. His breath hot and fast against her skin, he scented her, confirming the heat, confirming the bond. Mila gasped, clutching his thick fur. The primal need radiating from him was intoxicating, demanding. Then, with a low growl that resonated through the cave floor, the wolf began to change. The transformation was silent and swift, an implosion of muscle and magic. The immense gray and brown coat rippled, the bone structure shifting and shrinking until the powerful beast was replaced by a man. Derek, the Alpha King, stood naked before her. He was magnificent. Tall, broad-shouldered, his body lean and chiseled, marked by the faint scar on his flank. Even more arresting were his eyes, the same piercing, intelligent gold from his wolf form. Mila. His voice was a deep, gravelly baritone, rough with emotion. I am Derek, King of the North. You saved me. Mila, frozen in awe, could only stare. I know who you are, my king. Derek knelt before her, taking her small hands in his larger human ones. You risked everything, my hunters, my enemies. They would have ended you if they knew you hid me. I could not let such beauty die, she whispered, tears forming in her eyes. I was so afraid, but the moment I saw you, I knew I would protect you. He brought her hands to his mouth, kissing her palms fiercely. My mate. You have been waiting for me, and I for you. I have traveled far, searching for the soul whose scent would call to mine, the Omega who could shoulder the weight of my reign. He reached out, his hand tracing the curve of her cheek, then lowered his gaze to her mouth. The longing in the cave was thick, suffocating. The hunters are gone. We are safe now. I feel I must claim you, Mila. I must seal this bond and make you mine. The shift from care to romance was swift and inevitable, driven by the intense, primal connection of their species. Derek lifted Mila effortlessly into his arms and carried her to her simple sleeping furs. The kiss was consuming, shattering the quiet loneliness of her life. It was a kiss of gratitude, ownership, and deep, profound connection. His mouth was firm, tasting of the wilderness and the magic of his recent shift. His hands were gentle, trailing heat through the thin fabric of her gown. Mila responded with the fierce, yearning passion of a woman who had saved a king and now realized she was worthy of his love. She tugged at his shoulders, pulling him down to her, sinking into the soft furs. He undressed her slowly, reverently, his golden eyes filled with adoration, memorizing every curve of her body. When she lay bare beneath him, the cool air of the cave replaced by the heat of his gaze, she felt no shame, only overwhelming acceptance. Derek settled over her, his powerful weight pressing her into the furs. He moved with the innate knowledge of a lover, his touch electrifying. Mila, he groaned, his voice rough. I need you. I must take you now, forever. The slow, building eroticism was driven by the depth of their emotion. He sought to please her first, to ensure her pleasure was paramount, connecting their human bodies with tenderness and fervor. When their union became urgent, when Derek's breathing hitched and his powerful need pressed against her inner thigh, Mila stopped him, grasping his shoulders tight. Her eyes, soft with love but blazing with the deepest desire, met his. My king, my love, she pleaded, her voice breathy, thick with her Omega heat. I cannot. I want you, yes, but I want the true claim. I crave the beast that saved me and healed me. I want the magic. Derek frowned slightly, worried. I am human now, Mila. I can claim you this way with gentleness and love. Nay, she insisted, tightening her grip. I do not want the man to claim me. I want the Alpha King, the wolf from the snows, to bind us eternally. Please, my love, shift back, not me as the wolf. Derek stared at her, profound respect shining in his eyes. She was asking him to surrender all control, to give himself over completely to the primal act of the nodding ritual, the ultimate Alpha-Omega seal. A low, resonant sound rumbled in his chest, a mix of pure alpha dominance and deep affection. He recognized the depth of her desire to be truly, magically claimed. As you command, my queen, he whispered. With a final, tender kiss, Derek drew back, closing his eyes. The shifting magic flooded the cave again, less controlled this time, born of urgent need. In seconds, the man was gone. The grand, majestic wolf, larger, more intimidating, and infinitely more powerful than before, stood over her. The deep musk of his scent exploded in the air. He was no longer bound by human constraints. He moved with a focused, deliberate power, his golden eyes molten with heat and intent. He nudged his snout against her temple, a silent promise of care, before moving over her. Mila met him halfway, wrapping her arms around his incredibly thick neck, pulling his heavy body close. She was entirely ready for the raw, natural intensity of the connection. When he entered, it was a profound, stretching fullness, a deep mating that solidified every spiritual and emotional connection they had forged these 3 long nights. It was a frantic, primal rhythm that Mila matched with fervent cries. The power of him was immense, the rhythm demanding. Then, with a powerful, final thrust that drew a gasp of pure pleasure from her, he paused. She felt the heavy, biological seal form, the knot locking them together, completing the ritual and irrevocably marking her as his. The sensation was earth-shattering, a biological completion that sealed the magical mate bond firmly between their souls. It was intense, fulfilling, and utterly breathtaking. Derek groaned, a long, low sound of utter relief and triumph, burying his heavy head into the crook of her neck, scenting her skin fiercely. She held him tight as the knot pulsed, sealing their future. Tears of joy ran down her temples, not from pain, but from the immense fulfillment of being loved, claimed, and finally truly belonged to. They remained locked together as the warmth of the knot faded and the intensity subsided, 2 beings bound as one, resting in the quiet darkness of the cave. She ran her hands through his silky, thick fur, whispering endearments into his ear. When the knot finally released, Derek collapsed, exhausted but satisfied, his immense body draped over her, protecting her. Mila woke to the soft golden light filtering through the crack in the stone, painting the cave floor in warm hues. She smiled, feeling heavy, loved, and exquisitely sore. Derek was already awake, having shifted back into his human form sometime in the night. He lay beside her, propped on one elbow, his golden eyes soft as he watched her. He was still the Alpha King, majestic and powerful, but now he was also hers, her protector, her mate, the man she had saved. Mila, he murmured, his voice husky with sleep and satisfaction. You are my queen. This kingdom is yours now, and so is my heart. He traced the delicate line of her jaw, lingering near the place where she had gently kissed the cold snout of a wounded wolf only 2 days prior. I am yours, Derek, she replied, reaching up to touch the faint scar on his flank. Always. The scent of pine and herbs, earth and alpha, mingled together, no longer the scent of isolation, but the overwhelming perfume of their shared future. The shunned herbalist of the mountains had found her destiny, not in the cold world she knew, but in the heart of the majestic king she had saved.